Well, what do you know? I am still alive, and every once in a while, I still go around to doing these. Hello, everybody. Giuseppe Oliveri, No Good Takes Podcast. It feels so good to be back. It has been way too long since we have done anything of the sense of talking about anything live in a podcast form. Last time we were here, we were talking about Ryan McMahon and the Colorado Rocky love as he was on the Yankees at the time. That was still in the wild card round. That is a long time ago, but it's time to get down to some football talk. We're flying solo today, and we got plenty to talk about. And before we do anything else, hold on. Can we get some love for the Scooby-Doo crew neck? Look how awesome this thing is. How could you not love a little Scooby-Doo appreciation? The purple, I mean, look at him running around, the insane font. I forget where I got this from, but just know that if you ever run into it, you got to copy yourself one. It is fantastic. So let's get into actual conversations now. No better place to start than the dreadful performance of Justin Fields on Thursday Night Football. And if there were no more questions to be asked already, he's not an NFL caliber quarterback. Justin Fields is not made for the NFL. And I had this conversation with Jeremy and everybody else before the season started, and it was the same old narrative around Fields. Well, he hasn't been put in the right system yet. And for whatever reason, people said, well, Aaron Glenn, the defensive-minded coach in his first year as a head coach in the NFL, in the notoriously laughable system that is the New York Jets, you thought that would be the answer. It's not the answer, and I don't blame anybody but Justin Fields. Look, I know he was out Garrett Wilson. You still have Breece Hall. I know the Patriots have been extremely good this year, but he has just not played well. Look at all of the Jets' losses. Even look at some of their wins. There's only two to choose from. He has not played well. What Justin Fields has preserved out on the field this season is just not an NFL standard. And I know, Jets fans, the last thing you want to hear is Tyrod Taylor the rest of the way, or maybe you do at this point. I don't know. But he is a better option. And if you're going to go out and run Justin Fields onto the field, all that I can assume as an outsider is you want to tank and you want to lose. And we know that Aaron Glenn does not want to. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, dude? I get on for the first time in forever, and 6'7" is the first comment I get. Get the hell out of here. There we go. There we go. Look at all the love we're getting from Cheese. Thank you, Cheese. Okay. Back to the conversation. Justin Fields, NFL quarterback level, it's over. The conversation's done. The career is dead, and it should be Tyrod Taylor the rest of the way. And I'm sorry to any Jets fan out there that was singing his praises, because look, he does show flashes from time to time, somehow, some way, as unbelievable as it is to sound. But at the end of the day, the product he's putting out is just not at a good compete level. And with the Jets selling at the deadline, the defense being a fraction of what it was, if you want to go out and put your best product on the field, it does come with Tyrod Taylor. And now that brings me to the Aaron Glenn conversation. And I was a notorious hater of Aaron Glenn. I really was. But the more I sit back, you analyze the Jets after the bye week, they win 2 straight. And this is what Aaron Glenn was talking about. This is why he was brought in. This was the culture being built. And finally, he is showing what the Jets can be. They can fight. They can get punched in the mouth and get back up. And has it been pretty? No. The Jets against the Patriots last night on Thursday Night Football, was that pretty? No. And that was probably the worst coached game, at least at a penalty standpoint. For the Jets, I think it was, 6 penalties for all of them. I have the notes right here. Yeah, look, I come with my notes, so think that I just spit from out of my ass sometimes. I know what I'm talking about. It was 7 penalties for 62 yards, and the big stinker was the too many men call out of the timeout. That just can't happen, and that's where you excuse, though, well, first-year head coach, whatever. But anyways, given what we've seen from Aaron Glenn already, that cannot be happening. And the question of, has Aaron Glenn earned your trust to be the coach of the future? Look, he yanked a 5-year deal. The season has to go historically wrong for the Jets to get rid of him. And look, there was a conversation 3-4 weeks ago where the season is going historically wrong. This is a product on the field that's got to be at least a little better, but out of the bye week, it looks like the growing pains are becoming lessons, and we're seeing them on the field. And at the very least, yes, I think Aaron Glenn has earned my trust, not for a coach of the future, but to, at the very bare minimum, ride out the rest of the season and reassess, because I was ready to fire him right after the season a couple of weeks ago. But He settled down. I jumped the gun. I admit it. And he has been not a good head coach, not a great head coach. His answers in the media have not been great. His Justin Fields situation has not been great. How he's holding Justin Fields to this standard that comparable. Ready for this comparison? How Aaron Glenn is treating Justin Fields is how Aaron Boone is treating Anthony Volpe. For whatever reason, he's getting his special treatment. And look, at the end of the day, he's not a good quarterback. And I think it is Scooby-Doo. How about that? Right? How about that? Nice. So, anyways, I don't think that Aaron Glenn is treating Justin Fields at the same comparison and the same fairness level as anybody else. But I would definitely consider playing Tyrod Taylor the rest of the way. And Justin Fields is accountable. It's not like he's not. But look, how many more years are we going to sit here and have the same conversation about Justin Fields? Oh, it's got to be the right environment. Because we can compare him to the failed New York quarterback, Sam Darnold. He went and figured it out. Daniel Jones, I mean, I don't think that he's as good as everybody says, but yes, by the definition, he has gone and figured it out. For Justin Fields, enough years have passed in the NFL now. He's had enough chances with Chicago and with Pittsburgh and now with the Jets that if he were to have figured it out, it would have happened already. Plain and simple. I'm not saying that the Steelers are this offensive juggernaut because they haven't been for a very long time. But with Mike Tomlin as your head coach, yeah, I expect at least a little improvement. And Justin Fields was playing just good enough in Pittsburgh. And he hasn't done that any other aspect of his career in the NFL. If Justin Fields' ceiling is just good enough to get by, then it's not going to hit in New York because nothing ever goes right for the Jets. So my final piece about the Jets, Justin Fields has to get benched. Aaron Glenn has earned my trust at least for the end of the season. Then we can reassess. But the Jets are in just about as bad of a spot as you can imagine. Rattling off 2 wins, it is impressive. Don't get me wrong. But how the Jets have handled the majority of the season, it's been a 2-week blip. And I don't think that we can go on about this any longer of holding in Justin Fields to a high standard and Aaron Glenn getting away with dodging these Justin Fields questions. I just don't see it. Okay, moving on out of the Jets, we'll go to the Patriots for a little bit. Drake May, the MVP conversations. I'm getting tired of them. You poor Patriots fans. I'm so sorry you had to go through a 5-year blip of no Tom Brady and trying to defend Mac Jones. And you poor fans, you had to go through rookie year Drake May, and you had to go through the Gerard Mayo experiment. Oh, you poor things. Mike Vrabel, he's probably going to be coach of the year in my opinion. I love Vrabel, and I think he is the exact fit for the Patriots, and it's worked out. And Bunk brought up a really good point about a week or two ago now where he said the most impressive and unexpected parts of the Patriots year has been the explosive plays. And I completely agree with that. When you look at the Patriots on this roster and your most explosive weapon coming into the season was 50-year-old Stephon Diggs, yeah, I really wasn't expecting the explosiveness, but Drake May helps that a lot. Hunter Henry has been phenomenal at tight end, and we're seeing the blips of Trevion Henderson, the hat trick last night against the Jets. That is what is expected, and if there is one criticism of Vrabel, I know that Stevenson was playing well in the backfield. He still had a fumbling problem. He cleaned it up. But when you have a running back at the level of Stevenson and you have a rookie running back who flashed and shined in preseason, it's hard to split that and it's hard to figure out what's what. And now that the door is open for Trevion Henderson, he's not giving this job back up. He's explosive. He's exactly what the Patriots were looking for. And he completes what was already a very productive offense at this NFL caliber level. And I saw a question on Instagram. It was, well, who do you compare the Patriots to? Where are they in the AFC? Are they real? Are they pretenders? You look at the schedule. They have rattled off some impressive wins over the Bills, over the Falcons at the time, if you want to say. But the majority of these Patriots wins have come to lesser teams. But no, the Patriots are legit. I don't know what people are waiting for. What are you expecting? I mean, I'm sorry that you can't line up the Bills and Chiefs and the Colts, if you want to say, whatever AFC powerhouse there is. I'm sorry that they can't face them every week to prove themselves, but the tests that the Patriots have faced, they've come out on top. And I'm sorry that they're beating these lesser teams, but what do you want them to do? I hate that argument so much that, oh, this team is so good, but look at the competition they've played. Is it valid to an extent? Sure. But what do you want them to do? Not win? Roll over and die? Not try their hardest? No. The Patriots play who is on their schedule, and they've done a great job of it. In the clutch, they have played well. Drake May looks legit. He looks like the best quarterback in the AFC right now. I mean, you can make the argument in all of the NFL. I think right now you have Drake May and you have Matt Stafford, and everybody else is kind of right under that pyramid, if you want to say. Oh my God, the Holmes Mountain that I've seen a million times makes me sick to my stomach. But I'm going with Drake May. It's like a legitimate MVP conversation, a legitimate candidate. And why not? I'm not moving mountains with that statement. All right, we'll get more to the Patriots later. Let's move on to the New York Giants. Before that, we can answer some questions here. Why not? I love this. Jets or Giants? Yeah, I'm a Giants fan. I am a proud Giants fan. I don't know if proud is the right word. I'm a miserable Giants fan. A little happier that Dable got fired, but there's still plenty of work that needs to be done. Okay. So let's move on. Let's talk about the Giants. Dable, the elephant in the room, or the elephant who is no longer in the room, I should say. He is out. He is gone. It's the right move. And contrary to popular belief, I think it came at a good time. I know people wanted Dable out earlier. I know at this point people said, well, why not just wait until the end of the season? But Dable got his chances. And when Sean Morash of WFAN revealed to some sources that he trusts, that he holds highly, that John Mara had Brian Dable fired off of the plane after blowing the lead in Denver and cooler heads prevailed, I think I would have pulled the trigger there. But then again, I'm not an NFL owner, and if you wanted to make the argument of let Dable ride out a couple more weeks, sure thing. I'm with it. Okay, you're in this deep. Why not keep going? But now after the Chicago game, the team is uninspired. Jackson Dart with the concussion, he's out. I think this was a good time to fire Dable. And now you got to get this right. You got to nail this next head coaching job, because all of a sudden you have Jackson Dart going into year 2, and there is a legitimate fear of your rookie quarterback's development being stunted. But this was my argument, and we posted it on BTO a couple of days ago. If Jackson Dart played this good under the discombobulation, under the circus of Brian Dable and Mike Kafka, and Dable blowing up on his coaches on the sidelines, and Joe Schoen needing to wear headsets and listening to make sure Dable is being nice to his coordinators, which was a crazy concept and crazy thing that I heard. If he can thrive under Dable, he can thrive under a lot of people, I feel like. And the Giants are in a position to get this right. And Joe Schoen, I think that he needs to go as well, because Mike brought this up the other day as well. The Giants are such a desirable place to be right now. And you can say that for the first time in a long time. You have a rookie quarterback who is lighting the league on fire. You're going to have Malik Neighbors back next year off of an ACL surgery. A little scary, I know, but nonetheless still a huge, huge bright spot on the Giants. Cam Scatterbo, who came out of nowhere out of the 5th round. You have a pass rush that could be considered one of the best in the NFL. You have the NFL sacks leader right now, Brian Burns. There is a lot to be desired. You're going to pick again in the top 5 in the draft. A lot to be desired for the New York Giants. And I said it with Dable. It's going to be ruined with Dable. And I'm going to say it with Joe Schoen. It's going to be ruined if Joe Schoen is still here. And we're going to get into him later, because the Joe Schoen conversation is a little more interesting than you might think. Because off of the rip, you're saying just fire Joe Schoen, and I agree with you. But there is an argument for Schoen, and I'm excited to get into that a little later. Even though I don't agree with those arguments, to say that Joe Schoen hasn't done anything right with the Giants would be a little unfair. Okay, but news for this Sunday, Jameis Winston getting the start. Love it. Against the Packers team that has played very, very good defensively. But Jordan Love has not looked like a franchise caliber quarterback, what he should be looking like at this stage. I mean, after Micah Parsons got dealt to the Packers, there were the legitimate conversations of why not Green Bay to come out of the NFC. And I was part of those conversations. But again, cooler heads prevail, and you come down from that high a little bit. And Jordan Love has held the Packers back a great deal. A great deal he's held the Packers back. And losing Tucker Kraft hurts. I'm not going to act like that losing Tucker Kraft doesn't hurt at all. But even before that, Jordan Love has been holding this team back. And again, I'm not gonna pretend that Jordan Love has this all-star, this Pro Bowl, this all-pro wide receiving core. If Romeo Doubs is your top guy you're throwing to, yeah, there probably are some problems. But Tucker Kraft was playing like a legitimate tight end one in the league, and Josh Jacobs is one of the most consistent, one of the most efficient running backs in the NFL. So again, to act like that Jordan Love is high and dry there on the offense again is just not true. And Matthew Golden, waiting on him to take that next step. I mean, he is earning trust slowly but surely. He has his opportunities. He hasn't cashed in on all of them. But the Packers offense definitely feels like there's a lot being left on the table right now. And the blame, in my opinion, at least a good deal of it has to go to Jordan Love. I'm not saying Matt LaFleur is not to blame as well. I think that he can definitely get the blame game a little bit, but Jordan Love is number one on my list for reasons it hasn't gone right with Green Bay's offense. Okay, not to get off track, Jameis Winston getting his first start for the Giants. It should be fun. If it's anything like we're expecting, it's going to be the 400 yards. It's going to be 5 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, but at the end of the day, fun football. And I find it pretty humorous that the second that Brian Dable is out, Mike Kafka says, you know what, dude, like, famous, it's your start. Jameis Winston, you're in. If Dable was still here, I would probably assume that Russell Wilson is getting the start to play it safe, to save a job. But no, look, Mike Kafka, he's playing with house money right now. Gabe brought it up on the playbook the other day. He said that Mike Kafka does have something to coach for, that if the Giants want to hire from within, this is his I'm trying to think, his interview process right now to land a job. I don't think the Giants are even considering Kafka unless he lights the world on fire. I'm definitely not. I would hate for Mike Kafka to be the head coach because we've already seen plenty of criticisms just as a play caller, just as the offensive coordinator. So I'm definitely not leaning him. I don't think a lot of people are. But I mean, hey, it's a conversation to be had. And Jameis Winston being named the head coach is definitely the head coach, excuse me, the starting quarterback is definitely a good start. I think that is a great call by Mike Kafka. And at the very least, you can have at least a little fun because the Giants offense right now is so effing boring. I mean, who's your wide receiver one? Wan'Dale Robinson, 5-foot Wan'Dale Robinson. The combination of Theo Johnson dropping wide open passes and Daniel Bellinger getting his one big play a game, that is so effing boring. I mean, the Giants offense went from this fun, energetic, high-flying offense with Dart, Neighbors, Scatterbo to so effing boring. They're boring again. The Giants secondary sucks, and the pass rush is the only good thing about this team right now. I'd say Jackson Dart also, but he's hurt. He's reckless, and that's where we go to with our next point of the conversation. Are the Giants being too reckless, too carefree with Jackson Dart? He suffers his first concussion. He took a beating against Chicago. That's with him staying in the pocket. And short answer, no. Look, I am not a fan of Jackson Dart taking the hits, lowering the shoulder, but that's the kind of quarterback he was. It's not like that in college he was this safe, conservative quarterback. No. Do I think that the Giants need to do a better job of showing Jackson Dart, hey, dude, this is the NFL. You're not going against these college students anymore. You're going against grown men at this point who are going to take the hit any chance they get. Yeah, that has to be pounded into his brain. And I think that him getting his concussion and being ruled out for this Sunday is the lesson learned, and it should be the wake-up call that he's facing. But at the end of the day, I think that Jackson Dart is fine. Look, I'd rather have a quarterback who takes these hits, who is quote-unquote reckless, like the media wants to portray, who says that this type of style isn't sustainable because they said the same thing about Josh Allen, than the quarterback who's too afraid to make the throws, who stays in the pocket, who won't scramble, who throws the ball away too much, who has his first read and won't go anywhere else. Sound familiar, Giants fans? I'm talking about Daniel Jones. I'd rather have this quarterback who plays with such a swagger, with such confidence, who isn't afraid to take the hit. Sure, man, you're young. You'll pop back up. You'll bounce back. You're learning your lessons as an NFL quarterback. If it's year 3 or even year 2, honestly, and Jackson Dart is still taking these hits and still getting his ass kicked, then yeah, it's a problem. And I blame the Giants coaching staff for not doing a good job. So this season where so much blame can go to the Giants coaching staff, I'm not ready to point fingers there yet. I think that it's fine. Jackson Dart's still going through his agenda, learning his lessons, and whatever the case may be, I'd rather have a rookie quarterback who, again, quote unquote, is reckless, who will take the hits than to be a shell and stand in the pocket terrified. I think that the swagger of Dart is going to take him a very long way. Okay, that was a lot. And any new comments? No, nothing new. Okay, we will continue to push through here, starting with what should I say, jumping over to the good, the bad, and the ugly with Joe Schoen. And I'm going to start with the good because I think there's more than we would like to admit as Giants fans, as media. And I'm going to start with the good because I really do think that Joe Schoen gets a lot of hate. A lot of it is earned, but some of it is not. Abdul Carter, that's a good draft pick. And I'm not going to blame Joe Schoen for how Shane Bowen is running this god-awful defense. I mean, when your third overall pick is playing a QB spy, no, I'm not surprised he hasn't had a monster performance yet. He's being utilized in the wrong way. He is a pass rusher. That's what he does. He gets to the quarterback. Yes, he can drop in coverage. Yes, his versatility should be used. But that's not his game. That's not his strong suit. Look, man, if you got Dexter Lawrence, who's being double-teamed to Kingdom Come, Abdul Carter, who leads the NFL in sacks, Kayvon Thibodeaux, who we still don't know what he really brings yet, weirdly enough, this deep into his career, and now Abdul Carter, that's a pass rush for success. You got to bring it, though. You got to blitz more. If Wink Martindale was still running this defense, I think Abdul Carter would be an absolute stud right about now. But that's one of the goods, though. Jackson Dart, that's your franchise quarterback. I think most of the credit goes to Brian Daboll, unfortunately, for Joe Schoen, but he traded back into the first round. I was skeptical of it on draft night. They took Dart. They believed in their guy, just like they believed in Daniel Jones, I was terrified. I know it was a different regime, but I was a little concerned. It's paid great dividends. Jackson Dart is an absolute gamer, and sometimes that's what you need. And if you were to go back and redraft, Dart would be your first overall pick. There's no question about that. All right, moving on, some more good. Cam Skattebo. That's a good late-round find in the 5th round. Again, another gamer. He's one of those guys where you just said, F it. You saw what he did at ASU. The guy is a total monster. He's an absolute psychopath, and despite the injury, Skattebo brought a jolt to this team, and the biggest criticism with the Giants, like Jackson Dart, is you should have brought him in as a starter sooner. It took too long to get him in. All right, let's keep going with the good here. Brian Burns and that contract. Yo, he went out and got Brian Burns, dude. Like, that's a good move by your GM. Granted, you handcuffed yourself a little bit because you let Xavier McKinney walk, the Saquon's debacle, Daniel Jones. You needed a big splash. You needed a win, and Brian Burns was exactly that. So good on Joe Schoen there. And the last true good I have, again, Malik Neighbors. Nice. Good, safe pick. And he's coming to his own. He's going to be a great pass catcher for the Giants for years when he comes back from this injury. I just think that he nailed, it mostly comes in the draft, some free agency, but he nailed the last 2 years really of the draft. Okay, let's get to the bad. There's plenty of bad. The 2022 and 2023 draftees, the draft classes were terrible. Oh my God. I was going back and just looking at them while I was trying to set up this segment, and Joe Schoen's first 2 drafts with the Giants are an embarrassment. And I was looking back at all the pro grades, and everyone is saying it's so great. Let's just look at some of them. Let's look at some of these guys trading up in the first round for Deonte Banks. Deonte Banks. And I saw an argument the other day. I think it was on ESPN. And the argument was, well, Joe Schoen, what has he done right and what has he done wrong? And somebody brought up Deonte Banks as one of the things that he's done wrong in the secondary. And the argument to that was, well, don't give me a cornerback 3, a cornerback 4. Don't give me somebody who's riding the bench. But that is exactly what you should be doing. You know why? Because he was drafted in the first round. He was drafted to be a superstar. He has not panned out, Deonte Banks. So if you're going to make the argument that Deonte Banks shouldn't be criticized because he is a cornerback 3, a cornerback 4, when everybody is healthy, my argument to you is he wasn't drafted to be that. He was the first round pick. He's got to be better than that. That's a disgrace. That's a terrible argument. Let's keep going with some of these monstrosities that Joe Schoen has brought to the New York Giants. Here's a fun one. Jalen Hyatt. every year with the hypotheticals, with the Jalen Hyatt. He's developed a connection with Russell Wilson now. He's fast. Remember what he did in Tennessee? He may be severely undersized like Wan'Dale Robinson is, but he's fast. And when you get him in for the 2 or 3 snaps he gets on offense every game, he does jack you know what with it. It's terrible. You remember the one game in Arizona 2 years ago where he had like 3 catches for 50 yards and we thought he was here? No. Let's keep going. Kadarius Toney! Oh my God! Kadarius Toney! What the hell were we doing? So many of these guys haven't panned out. Here's a big one I know you're waiting for. Evan Neal! Evan Neal! What the hell is that about? Are you kidding me? Joe Schoen's first 2 years, the draft classes are terrible. They were an embarrassment. And look, paying Daniel Jones. I'm going to defend it a little bit. I will. I think that paying Daniel Jones was unfortunately the right move. In hindsight, it was between the running back who is replaceable, who, again, I just had a monster year for the Giants in 2022, but injury prone. And I'm not saying that I'd pay Daniel Jones now, but you got to look at it in hindsight. The quarterback who took a step up his first year under Brian Daboll, assuming that's what you get for the rest of his career, or the running back who has a history of injuries and a position that is one of the most replaceable on offense. So I don't fault Joe Schoen for that signing. I don't fault him for the extension. It's a tough position to be in. But now it's time for the ugly. Being exposed on Hard Knocks. Joe Schoen lets Saquon Barkley walk, and again, I'm not going to sit here and ridicule him for that. Because in hindsight, if it's between your quarterback or your running back, you got to go with the quarterback. But what I am going to ridicule him for is how he went about it. When Joe Schoen is on Hard Knocks and he's on record saying that nobody's going to give him that money and find me a team that's going to pay him that. When John Mara is in his office saying he's going to lose sleep at night if the Giants don't bring back Saquon Barkley, and then he goes to the Eagles, the rival, the most hated rival for the Giants, I think, and he wins a Super Bowl in his first year. He puts up MVP-like numbers. He could break rushing records. He's a stud in the playoffs. Then I'm going to fault you, Joe Schoen. Then I'm going to fault you. Because if you were to just say, simply, if it's between our quarterback and our running back, and the running back is a replaceable position, which Cam Skattebo has proven a couple of years later, then I'm fine with that. Done. Sure thing. But you said that nobody's going to pay Saquon that? You basically said his value was nothing to you. You said that he was asking for too much money. You just could have said, we got to put our money elsewhere. Done. End of discussion. Everybody wins. Not Giants fans, not Joe Schoen, but the Philadelphia Eagles sure win, Joe. Nice job there, you jackass. All right, let's see. What else do we have? The ugly for this point, I guess you could say, bringing in Brian Daboll. Now, it's one of those things where it started as good, went to bad. Now it's the ugly. Look, you brought in Brian Daboll as your head coach under you at the time. People liked the move. I liked the move after 2022. It seemed like it was panning out. And after that, all hell broke loose. And, hit the fan. And at the end of the day, it's ugly. I'm not going to ridicule Shane too much for that, but, you got to be ridiculed at least a little bit. Okay, that's it with Joe Schoen, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Way more ugly, way more bad than good, and he should not be the general manager next season. I'll leave it at that before we get out of the Giants conversation. Joe Schoen has ruined the Giants to a certain extent. I understand that it's supposed to be a new regime. It was a new era after Gettleman stepped down, but this has been terrible. This has been just about as bad as you can get after 2022. You haven't done anything to really help, at least in free agency. Oh, Xavier McKinney. I forgot about the McKinney debacle. Excuse me. Letting Xavier McKinney walk and then signing Javon Holland as a cheaper, worse deal. I don't understand that. I really don't. All right, that's out of there. I don't think the Giants win on Sunday, by the way, against the Packers. I think Green Bay, this is a textbook get-me-right game for the Packers, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen this Sunday. All right, let's get to some around the NFL news, and then we'll get the hell out of here. Rams versus Seahawks. Battle atop the NFC West, battle atop the NFC. You can make the argument battle atop the NFL. And all of a sudden, I think Sam Darnold's legitimacy is going to come in question here. This is a big blow-up spot for Sam Darnold. And he's got to prove himself that he can hang with the best of the best. If you remember last year against Detroit in the final week of the season, he had a terrible showing. In the playoffs against the Rams, another terrible showing. And I don't know if that was just a stage in the season type deal. He can't play under the bright lights, or if it was just the quality of the teams he was going against. But this is a bit of a revenge game for Sam Darnold, but I think this is a bigger spot for Sam Darnold to blow up. And my hot take of the week, one of them at least, is Sam Darnold is going to get exposed against the Rams. And he's going to take a step back. And I'm not saying this is going to begin a downward spiral for Sam Darnold, but this is going to be one of Darnold's first truly bad games as a Seahawk. I just don't think that he can handle the pressures of going up against these top teams, especially the Rams, who have been so good and owned him in the playoffs last season. So Sam Darnold proved me wrong. I'm open to it. JSN has looked like the best receiver in the NFL this season. But yeah, I don't think that Sam Darnold is going to come out and light the world on fire. I just don't see that happening at all. Okay. Outside of that, I'll take Seahawks over the Rams. Blow-up spot for Sam Darnold. Bills versus Bucks. This is a good one. And I think that the Bills and Buccaneers could be game of the week. Who needs a win more, the Bills or the Bucks? I think it's the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield, he lit the world on fire in the early goings of the season, but since then, he's quietly come back down to earth. I know they're banged up. I know they're without their receiving core. I know they're without Bucky Irving, but man, do the Buccaneers need a win. And the Buffalo Bills coming off of an embarrassing loss to the Dolphins. I think this is a perfect opportunity for the Bucs to take advantage, to jump on it, and Baker Mayfield to light the world on fire. He needs to do it again. The Buccaneers need to get a convincing win. And if they do it against any regards against the Bills, that is a huge statement right there to put themselves back in the conversation of top teams in the NFC. But right now, they're not there. The top teams in the NFC for me, I think my top three at least, are the Rams, obviously, Seahawks, obviously. Oh my God, this might be a little biased. This might be a little hater coming to me. I'll put the Lions over the Eagles, but they can be interchangeable at 3 and 4. And then I guess the Buccaneers sneak in there at 5, but it's not a convincing 5. So I'm gonna take the Bills over the Bucs, but Baker and the Bucs need this win more, and they could still totally get it. I don't think they can't get it, but it should be a good game. And expect both quarterbacks to come out and at least put up a respectable showing. Okay, here we go. Moving right along. What's next on the list? This is a good one here. And I'm still riding the train. I'm taking the Panthers over the Falcons straight up this Sunday. Michael Penix has not been elite. All right, well, who expected him to be elite? Let me try this again. Michael Penix has not been consistent. He has some games where he lights the world on fire, and he has some games where he looks slightly sloppy. And Bijan Robinson not being this elite running back the last couple of weeks does not help his case. Raheem Morris being a pretty low standard of NFL coaching does not help his case. And I'm going to throw Michael Penix a few bones, but he hasn't looked like the Penix that people expected him to. He's only got 9 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, but look, dude, he hasn't wowed anybody. He hasn't been bad. I'm not going to say that Michael Penix is losing his team's games, but he's not winning them games either. And where the Falcons were coming into the season, you expected Michael Penix to take at least that next step a little bit. And the defense has not been good for Atlanta. I'm not going to act like it has been. Bijan Robinson has carried a load of this offense. I mean, Drake London has looked great at times. Kyle Pitts has looked good at times. But Michael Penix has not been consistent enough to carry this offense, and that's kind of what I expected of him in the beginning of the season, and I got chewed out for it. Screw you. Your Falcons are 3 and 6. Suck it. Yeah, I'm right, you're wrong. And speaking of right and wrong, how about the Panthers? My Carolina Panthers over 500. Let's go. And maybe not kidding there, but I mean, Rico Dowdle has taken over this offense. They got to be a run-first team, but the Panthers need to put points on the board because the Falcons are going to. The Falcons are going to put points on the board. I expect the Panthers to put points on the board, and I'll take Carolina in a huge upset over Atlanta, and I think this is going to be the nail in the coffin for the Falcons this week. And again, a lot of it goes on Raheem Morris. I think most of it goes on Raheem Morris. A lot of it goes on the defense. A lot of it goes on Michael Penix not being consistent enough to elevate his team to where at least the offense needs to go. And I heard the press conference the other day, I think it was on the 12th, so a couple of days ago now, where He said that he doesn't really have anybody on the sidelines to look to for advice, and bad look on the coaching staff, bad look on the veterans of the team. I think it got blown out of proportion a little bit, but at the end of the day, with your starting quarterback being asked where you get your motivation from, advice from, and he doesn't even bring up anybody on your coaching staff on the bench of Atlanta, that's a problem. That is a problem, and that could definitely be something that we look at in the offseason or later this year that gets Raheem Morris fired. Okay. Moving on, I got Panthers over the Falcons. I love that pick. I'm riding with that pick as well. I think they're at least going to cover. Okay, moving on. Guys, you're going to hate me for this. I'm not moved by the Young Bowl again. I don't think it's going to be nearly as fun and as exciting as it was. I think actually it's going to be a weird low-scoring game for whatever reason. If you tell me that the Steelers and Bengals are going to light the world on fire again, I just don't see that happening. I think the Bengals are going to run away with this game, if anything. When Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco played the first time, the Steelers' offense was much more efficient, and I know against the Bengals, anybody's offense can be efficient, but I just don't see it happening. I think the Bengals are going to run away with this game. I don't think that it's going to be any fireworks like we saw last time. And you can boo me, throw the tomatoes, go ahead, but I am not moved by Unk Bowl 2. I think the Bengals are going to win, sets up Joe Burrow coming back, and maybe, just maybe, Cincinnati can make one of those weird runs to a wild card spot. Probably not, but I'm not moved by that at all. Okay, moving on. Kansas City and Denver. This is an interesting game. Kansas City needs to blow the Denver out of the water. They just need to. The Chiefs are looking for that statement Chiefs-like win, and the Broncos' offense has been terrible. Bo Nix has not pulled his weight at all. The defense has been carrying the Broncos once again, and this is the Chiefs' moment to take it to the Broncos defense. And I'm not saying light the world on fire. I'm not saying, put up 50 on them, but you got to outplay Denver severely here. And I expect that exactly to happen between the Broncos and Chiefs. I think the Broncos at the most fraudulent 8-2 we've seen since probably the Steelers at 11-0. They got to come back down to earth a little bit. And I think it's going to happen against Kansas City. The Chiefs are too good to not put up a fight against this Bo Nix-led Broncos. And I'm going to take the Chiefs over here in a big way against Denver. Okay, moving on. What else do we need? Lions versus Eagles. This is a big test of Philadelphia's legitimacy, because if Jordan Love plays even a fraction better against the Eagles last week, then they win, right? The Packers win. There's questions about the Eagles, but they've been able to kind of coast their way under the radar. But look, they have a bad loss against the Giants on Thursday Night Football, and I think that the Eagles are frauds, man. I know that people could push back against me. You can't not take into consideration the Super Bowl last year and whatnot. But at the end of the day, Philadelphia are frauds. They're nowhere near what they were last season. And Jalen Hurts is not a great quarterback. I know that he goes from people's top 5s to top 10s, whatever. I think he's like in that top 7 range, but I don't think that Philly's good. Detroit, I feel like, is going to win. And it's a big statement for the Eagles. I think that they need to figure it out, and they definitely can. If they beat Detroit, that's huge in a big way, but I'm going to take Detroit over Philadelphia here. Okay, what else do we got on the list? This is my favorite game of the week because something has got to give. Either Geno Smith is going to light up the Cowboys defense for his first and only good showing of the season, or the Cowboys defense, who is infamous this season for being putrid, is going to lock down Geno Smith and put on a show. The fact that one of those things has to happen makes me so happy. And what's my prediction for it? Drum roll, please. I think the Cowboys defense is going to lock down the Raiders offense. And it's going to be such an embarrassment for the Raiders. Geno Smith is somehow still at a starting level in the NFL. And if Ashton Jeanty can't put up 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, if Trey Tucker can't go for 7 catches, 100 yards and a touchdown, and Brock Bowers, the same deal, I don't see a world where the Raiders even come close to winning. And they have the weapons on offense, at least a little bit. But Geno Smith is so bad, and I think the Cowboys defense is somehow, some way, going to show out against the Raiders. I love this matchup. It's going to be such a circus when they play. It's going to be terrible, but it's going to be awesome at the same time. All right, what else do we got here? This is the final point I'm going to make, then we'll get out of here. The Colts are a good team. I think they are. I think the defense is good. Jonathan Taylor should be the MVP if not for Drake May and Matthew Stafford. But let me ask you this. Do you seriously trust Daniel Jones to go into the playoffs, to win you a couple of games, to put a team on his back when Jonathan Taylor isn't putting up MVP-like numbers? I don't. I don't at all. And there are some odd similarities with Daniel Jones the 2 years that he has been a good quarterback in the NFL, starting with Saquon Barkley and Jonathan Taylor. Two two offensive players that at the very bare minimum are going to win offensive player of the year. You have a tight end who was so good in Tyler Warren. The Giants didn't have that. And you got a good receiving core better than the Giants had. And you have a good defense. The Giants had 22 had a good defense. But I don't trust Daniel Jones. When the lights are on and Jonathan Taylor is being stuffed because it's bound to happen one or two times, and he's got to make a clutch pass to a Michael Pittman, a Josh Downs, a Tyler Warren, I don't see it happening. We've seen Daniel Jones come back down to earth a little bit. He's still played good. He's the only quarterback to ever make blood on his face not look cool. But I don't trust Daniel Jones in a big spot. And that's what's going to keep the Colts from being a AFC Championship Super Bowl contending team. If they had another, mid-tier quarterback, I think that they can make it to a Super Bowl. I mean, the Patriots, I'm still going to put the Bills and Chiefs in there. How can you not? But AFC's open, man. This NFL season is wide open on both conferences. But I don't know. I just don't trust anything from Daniel Jones. All right. That's going to do it here from the No Good Takes podcast. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. We had 32 viewers at one point. How about that? My name is Giuseppe Oliveri. So good to be back doing this live. I really missed it. I'm going to try and be more consistent. No promises, but I can promise that I will try. Time for shout-outs to go around, and we got more since last time we were here. Let's do the normal ones out of the way first. Bunk's got the bunker. Mike has mic'd up. Together, they make up the Burrows, and then we have Gabe with the playbook doing great things there. Mike and JM Marisi make up the Hardline Sports Talk. Bo and Mike do the gambling show. Don't listen to them. You're going to lose out on a lot of money. That's 6 right there. Who else are we missing? Calvin Willie, baby, covering the cup. Welcome to the BTO family, Calvin. He is the man, and I totally dissed his Packers in this episode, so I'm sorry, Calvin, but I'm sure you'd be telling me the same thing right about now. That's 7 of us. 8 makes up the No Good Takes podcast with me. And then I think that's going to do it. I think there's 8 of us going strong right now. 8 strong shows, plenty of content on BTO Media. Go check out the Instagram. Go check out the TikTok. Go check out all of our YouTube videos. Go check out everything. It is super fun, and we are on the rise. I promise you that. My name is Giuseppe Oliveri saying so long. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's go Giants. Let's go win. Let's just go New York. Let's get a win for New York. And let's go Rangers. They are so effing back. But that is going to do it from the No Good Takes podcast. So long. I'll catch you guys.